time out and give you a look at our pick sips. I like Gerhard Berger to win. David picks Ayrton Senna. John likes Alain Prost. We'll be back for the start of the Spanish Grand Prix in a moment.
Grand Prix of Spain as they are making their final warm-up lap. This is the latest information. McLaren looks perfect. Absolutely no attention to the cars on the grid whatsoever. Williams, Patrese is starting in the FW12 or Boutsen's in the FW13. There's a mix of cars between those teams. Ferrari, they are very concerned. They had trouble with the automatic gearbox this morning on both the spare and the race car. They hope it is safe to go racing with. They think it's solved. They have also made some small handling changes. Minardi and Alio, they are so happy to be so far up the grid, they haven't changed a thing. As near as I can tell, all the Goodyear cars are on C's, and the Pirelli boys are being very secretive. They may try and go the whole distance without a stop.
Thank you, John. We will see a battle of the tires indeed between Goodyear and Pirelli, in addition to all of the other titles at stake here today. The weather very warm, 76 degrees or so, and climbing quickly. Those early rain showers I mentioned have brought the humidity level up to a quite high figure. 40% chance of rain the rest of the day, we're now being told. I make it maybe a little bit higher than that. And it is very windy, gusting to 25 miles an hour, following the cars up the grid straightaway. A week ago in Portugal, Alain Prost said that he was getting pushed right to the rev limiter because of the following wind. Now the in-cars will be carried today by Team McLaren. It doesn't get any better than this, folks. There is Ayrton Senna, who must win or finish second and hope that Alain Prost finishes further back. He is the pole sitter, and now he guns the engine and brings up the revs as he pulls to the start line. There is the second in-car camera. His teammate Alain Prost up ahead, the world champion. This man will try to take that title away today. And we also have another little surprise in store for you today. There is a camera mounted in the back of Martin Brundle's Brabham, and we hope to be able to bring that to you as well. Now you see the field forming up. Senna brought them around quite slowly at the end of his warm-up lap.
Well, he wants everybody to keep up with him because he doesn't want to be waiting right where he is now too long for the stragglers to pick up at the back of the field. And of course, nothing will happen to the lights until a marshal at the back waves the green flag, signifying that everybody has pulled safely onto the grid. And of course, behind them will be the safety cars that will follow them around on that first lap.
The last cars are pulling into place. They'll bring the revs up to about 10,000 RPM and then pop the clutch in first gear. David, I know you think this first corner could be a real schmozzle.
Well, it's a fair run up to it in a very tight corner.
They are away, and it is a clean start. Senna is your leader as they make the run up to turn one. And look at this long straightaway. Sharp right to left coming up in front of you. Wait, somebody locks up the brakes. Looks like the Tyrrell of Alesi. But the front runners, I think, got through cleanly. There is
somebody there. One of the Brabhams right up on the extra shoulder there. A schmozzle as they go around turn two there, but no accident so far. No signs of contact. Oh, there's somebody off.
Someone went off there. It's one of the Lotuses.
Oh, he spun right back into the field in front of poor old Gugelmin in the March. He's having an absolutely crummy weekend. A dreadful day yesterday, starting dead last, and that looks like
12. That's Nakajima
out of the race.
So the only Japanese driver in the race is now out. Tough break there for Satoru Nakajima, but that's just how tight things can be.
Boy, that was a pretty miraculous spin. I mean, he spun right through 360 degrees on the track and pretty well missed everybody.
Looking down from above, you see the interval opened up by Ayrton Senna. Behind him, the red Ferrari of Gerhard Berger.
Gerhard Berger's car yesterday, when you and I went for that long walk around the track, just looked to me to be handling a little bit better everywhere than the McLaren. But of course, we've got the Senna factor in this car. And also another thing that's going to help the Ferrari around here is that automatic gear shift, if it keeps working. A very physical track this, as you can see, an awful lot of cornering. Cars exerting tremendous G-loads on the drivers. End of lap one just coming up. Third position, Prost. One of the Patrese in fourth. And there's Pierluigi Martini in the first of those Minardis, right up there in fifth spot.
Your top four are Senna, followed by Berger and Prost, and the Minardi of Pierluigi Martini, who is wowing the crowds late in this season, really making a name for himself in Formula One. You're looking out of Ayrton Senna's car at clear track ahead here in Spain, and it is a very difficult race course, as David mentioned. The drivers constantly shifting and braking and accelerating. There is no rest for the drivers whatsoever, and we will reiterate as you look out the back of Martin Brundle's Brabham.
That you see one of the Benetton cars right behind him.
You can hear from the engine constantly revs going up or down, no brake whatever, and it is hot and humid and windy.
There you see the car scratch, the sparks coming up from right out the back of that car. It's Pirot in the Benetton, makes up a bit of ground as they come into the hairpin.
Ivan Capelli has pitted one of the marches as you watch the action out the back of the Brabham. It is Senna, Berger, Prost, Patrese in 4th place. I said Martini before. Martini is 5th, followed by Alliot, Grundle, whose car you're looking at, or looking out of, I should say right now, and Emanuele Pirot.
And right behind Pirot is John Alesi in the Tyrrell. John Alesi's already finished in the points once this year, and I'm sure that Tyrrell is looking for a good finish from this young Frenchman here today in Spain. You can hear that car crashing on the floor all the time.
You're listening as well as seeing for the first time out the back of a car. Now out the front of your leader, Ayrton Senna's McLaren Honda. It's
a good job we can't see out the back of Ayrton Senna's car, because right behind him is Gerhard Berger. I mean, absolutely glued to his tail. Into turn 3. Downhill here. This is a very fast 5th gear corner, almost flat out in 5th here. Swing right, a little bit of a lift. Hard on it, then down on the brakes, down to 4th probably, maybe 3rd, depending on the gear ratio setup. Then into this left and right-hander. Very quick, as we said before, a little bit bumpy on the exit. But Senna, of course, at the moment, got a perfect view in front of him, absolutely clear, the view that all drivers like.
A week ago, Nigel Mansell said part of the reason he was unaware of the black flag was that he couldn't hear anything. He said the pit radios don't work well from the pits to the car, and with the sound of a 12-cylinder Ferrari behind your ears, it's a wonder you can hear anything. As you could have told there from the V10 noise from Ayrton Senna's McLaren Honda, it is very, very noisy indeed in these race cars.
And of course, especially if you're right behind another car, because then you've got your engine and the full effect of his. Capelli's March being worked on. Something with the front suspension. Was he one of the guys that drove off the road in that?
Might have been. Right front suspension problem. Meanwhile, this is the battle for the lead. Ayrton Senna and his future McLaren teammate, this man from Austria, Gerhard Berger. The crowd comes to its feet as the leaders come down the front straightaway. We're going to take a quick timeout, but we won't let you miss anything. Senna leads the Spanish Grand Prix, followed by Berger, Prost, Patrese, Martini, and Alliot. Back at the Formula One Grand Prix of Spain with 4 laps complete of 73 scheduled. Your leader is Ayrton Senna of Brazil, followed closely by the Ferrari of Gerhard Berger. John Bizignano has an update from pit road.
Ivan Capelli has made a very early pit stop, and it's not for tires. The right lower wishbone was very heavily damaged when he came into the pits. Also, the pull rod leading up into the shock absorbers. They're changing everything as fast as they can, but obviously many laps behind, the March will re-enter the race.
It's been a tough season for the Leighton House March team. They fully expected to do very, very well this year, but they have just not been able to get the combination together. Both drivers have re-signed for next year, however, and perhaps better times lie ahead.
Well, it needs to be, because today or this whole weekend has been particularly trying for them, and yesterday afternoon's qualifying was very sad to watch. Poor old Gugelmin just never got out in the car with engine misfires. He had a crash in the morning and never made it up to the other than last on the grid. But here we got old Senna whistling through that last right-hander. He just lifts a little bit. Probably later on in the race he won't.
Senna remembers this turn well. Just a few years ago, he beat Nigel Mansell off this turn and got to the finish line ahead by 14 one-thousandths of a second, the closest finish of the decade in Formula One. Uphill through turn 1. Notice his hands. Much of the time, he at least enters the corner with steering with just one hand, because his shift lever is down to the right, and he has to drop that right hand down to shift.
Well, of course, that's one advantage that Gerhard Berger has over them. He doesn't have to take his hands off the wheel. And, of course, there is a bit of effort involved in shifting gears on these cars, although very close ratios. And that, as the race goes on, assuming it's reliable, should be playing into Gerhard Berger's hands.
Now you're aboard with Alain Prost, who runs presently in 3rd position behind the Ferrari just ahead.
And as you can see, not very far out of the picture. Of course, if Alain Prost was to win today, and Ayrton Senna finished worse than second, that would lock up the championship for Alain Prost.
Prost wins, it's all over. Senna finishes third or worse, it's all over, and Prost has his third world championship. Now, if Senna finishes first and Prost second, there is a possibility of a tie on points as we move on to Japan and then Australia. A tie would be won by Senna by virtue of more victories this year. If Senna finishes first and Prost finishes third or worse, Senna still has a shot at retaining his world championship on points alone. Let's get back to John.
Ivan Capelli finally making it out of the pits. He's going to join the leaders. That has to be a little bit scary. Let me ask you, David, what's it like to have suspension changes like that and enter right at the very head of the race?
Well, of course, it's just nothing worse than getting yourself all psyched up for race the whole weekend. The flag drops, and almost immediately you have to go in the pits. It's a feeling that's very hard to convey to lay people. Or it's just because there's no other sport where the same sort of problem can beset you.
Your leader is Ayrton Senna, followed by Gerhard Berger, Alain Prost. This man, Riccardo Patrese, has set fast lap of the race. He did it on the third lap. Yeah, Luigi Martini's right behind him. Philippe Alliot in the Lola Lamborghini still going well. Martin Brundle, the first of the Pirelli shod cars. No, I beg your pardon. Of course, Martini has Pirelli tires. So Pirelli's putting on a pretty good show this afternoon in the heat again. They definitely wanted to see heat. The Pirelli engineers were quite concerned when we had rain earlier in the day because they didn't think that their tires would do well under cooler conditions. You're on board with Alain Prost.
As you can see, not very far out of that first spot. The first two cars within very easy striking distance of Alain Prost.
It is Senna, Berger, Prost, Patrese, Martini, followed by Alliot, Brundle, Pirot, Alesi, and Piquet filling out the top 10. Nannini with the new Ford V8 engine runs in 11th position. Let's just listen in for a moment here as Alain Prost works. This is fun. Here comes the Heart Stoppers, a set of right-hand turns coming up that they will take flat out in fifth gear and absolutely scream by the hospitality area right here. Sharp right, followed by another sweeping right. 150 miles an hour or so, would you guess, David?
Just about 150, and of course the car's developing tremendous G-loads as they go through there. But that man there, Riccardo Patrese, is the surprisey of the afternoon. He and his teammate Thierry Boutsen had dreadful practice in qualifying, and in the end Patrese decided to go back, as you've already said, to the older model car, and has really come alive this afternoon in the race, and still holds the fastest lap of the race. Pierluigi Martini, the first Goodyear shot, Pirelli shot cars, back in fifth spot.
The 28-year-old Italian.
Right on there.
What a weekend he had after being fastest for a great deal of the time in Friday's provisional qualifying. He was then fastest in Saturday morning's practice, got out of his car, walked over to his motorhome, took a step up onto the ladder, fell down and sprained his ankle. So he's working with a bum wheel today, and I mean the one inside the cockpit. Nicola Larini has crashed the Osella. He is off the race course and out of the race. We're going to take another quick timeout. We'll be back to Spain after this.
In Formula One, we are very proud and very macho, and if one woman comes, I tell you, it's going to be a big problem. But I hope one day that will arrive.
I don't know, because it never happened, so we need the experience to be able to say something.
For me, women should concentrate in other things where they succeed better.
I think it'd be quite good. The only thing that would be destroying for us, shall we say, male chauvinistic drivers, as people will call us, is that if a woman was to get hurt, I think that is so bad. I mean, I'd be quite mortified.
If you have a question you'd like to ask a Formula One driver, send it to Ask the Driver, P.O. Box 309, Crestwood, Kentucky 40014, and we'll try to ask your question of the Formula One team. Ayrton Senna, to the lower right of your picture, wearing the number 1 that he wants so desperately to hang on to. Behind him, his future teammate, Gerhard Berger. This is Riccardo Patrese in the old Williams FW12. He runs 4th. Right now, you're looking out the back of Martin Brundle's Brabham. In 8th position, right behind him, young Jean Alesi, the Frenchman, driving for Ken Tyrrell.
So Jean Alesi must have disposed of Alessandro Nannini, and he's working his way towards the front of this grid. He was 2nd fastest in the morning warm-up today, which is always a good indication of how you're going to go in the race, but this is probably the worst racetrack in the Formula One season to pass people on, because there's so many corners.
Some 16 separate corners and no real long straightaways, and the cars, despite the McLaren domination earlier this year, have gotten so much closer together. They are virtually equal in performance once they're on full tanks and in a race configuration.
Alesi coming up on the braking there. They go around the hairpin, coming up to that fast left-hand sweep. There's Gerhard Berger, 2nd spot.
I've read that a Formula One car can brake from 185 miles an hour to 50 miles an hour in less than 2 seconds. Talk about stopping power.
Well, no weight. Tremendous downforce and tremendous grip from that rubber, and it just all adds up to the most dynamic braking that you can possibly exert.
Let's get a comment from John in the pits.
Well, you see a car with Riccardo Patrese on it, and he's doing so well in 4th place. And as it has been mentioned, he is in the FW12. They brought the FW13s, 2 of them, to Portugal last weekend and experienced 2 DNFs without a great deal of testing. Frank Williams, the leader of this team, decided, okay, fellas, we're going to split up this weekend. Who's going to be best, the 12 or the 13? Right now, the history of the 12 is certainly showing greater performance over 13, but wait till 1990 when they have not only testing, but a few races on the FW13.
And just because we've talked about Alain Prost's battle for the World Championship, don't think there are other conditions and situations being contested here. Patrese stands 4th in the driver points behind Prost, Senna, and Mansell, very much within striking distance of the absent Nigel Mansell. Terry Boutsen is right behind his teammate in 5th, and the Williams team is 3rd in the team championship, just 2 points, that is, behind Ferrari. So at the prize giving in Paris come December, a lot of positions could be decided here in Spain.
And if Gerhard Berger keeps up this charge at the front, that will move him dramatically up the ranks of the World Championship contenders. I said this morning he was 6th. He is, of course, 7th in the championship at the moment, just 2 points behind Alessandro Nannini. But just 4 weeks ago, he had no points at all. So I'm sure he's pretty happy.
You watch Alain Prost running in 3rd position. Right behind him, Riccardo Patrese. The gap less than a second from Senna to Berger in 1st. Less than 2 seconds back to Prost and Patrese.
Ooh, that looks
a replay of an incident there. Is that Palmer? The Tyrrell to the left of your screen, to the right.
I think that must be Alesi and Brabham.
One of the Brabhams.
Couldn't tell from that distance, but we may have a replay of that, of course, from Brabham's rear view looking camera. One of the Benettons in, Alessandro Nannini.
Alessandro Nannini, the first one to visit the pits just for tires. Very quick Benetton pit stop, but my gosh, we're only on lap 10 or 12, I believe. This is very early for them to come in. We might see 2 pit stops, as was earlier predicted.
Well, if Sandro Nannini comes in every 12 laps, he's going to have to make 5 of them, 6 of them.
A lot of problem getting those cars set up. One of the engineers on the Benetton team told me they finally just raised the nose wing. They were getting so much front downforce, the nose was sticking, the back end was coming up, they were spinning tires off the car. Could be they are still having that same rear tire grip problem with Sandro Nannini. Now from high above. That looked like the Brabham. I think you're right, David. That was Brundle and Alesi contesting that corner a little earlier on that the Spanish national TV network was showing us.
But they all kept out of each other's way. It was a very similar incident to the one that we saw last week that, of course, eliminated Senna and Mansell. Same sort of move, and but they both kept out of each other's way and somehow pulled it off. Still those two leaders absolutely glued together as they go into turn one, a bumpy turn one.
Number 28 on Gerhard Berger's Ferrari. You might say that it hasn't brought him much luck this year. 11 straight non-finishes until he scored at Monza and then won, of course, last week in Portugal. Ironically, should Alain Prost win the championship, Gerhard Berger will find himself in car number 28 with Team McLaren next year because they will simply switch numbers on those two teams.
Berger, at this stage, really hoping that gearbox is going to hold together. Back in the car with Ayrton Senna. They come up to the far hairpin.
Very tight corner here.
Then, of course, something's gone wrong with it. No?
Very slow picking up there.
It doesn't sound right, does it?
There could be a problem for Ayrton Senna. Now he's getting up to what sound like normal revs, but he badly missed them low there.
Unless it was our sound that was wrong.
Could be.
It may be that the soundtrack is not quite right because he didn't seem to be going all that slow.
The pit
entrance slowed up that much. I'd have thought Gerhard Berger to whistle by him.
Pit entrance coming up after this next right-hander. Coming up on the left side. One of the few times in Formula One they pit to the left, but he goes right by.
Still on pretty much full song. You can hear the engineer drops quite low in the rev range, really.
And it's low in the rev range that Alain Prost says he's been having trouble with his Honda engines the past few races. He was complaining bitterly about it at mid-season. But now, Alain Prost has a 24-point bulge in the standings that could wrap up a championship today that'll make any engine sound sweet. Your top five are Senna, Berger, Prost, Patrese, and Martini. Pirot runs in sixth, followed by Alliot, Brundle, and Alesi.
Alliot and Pirot just had a bit of a moment at that last hairpin. Went round absolutely side by side, doing the wrong thing for a commentator looking out the window, but it looked pretty exciting just for a minute there.
There is the gap now. Senna pulling away a little bit on the Ferrari. Said he will fight for this championship down to the very last race, and he might have to.
Well, he will have to. I mean, he absolutely has to win at least two of the remaining three races, this being one of those three.
Nannini is off.
Looks like Nannini off the road. So whatever it was, he obviously had a problem with his car. It's well and truly in the gravel pit, and I don't think they're going to get that out of there.
You watch Nannini trying to get himself unstuck. Looks like he wants to stay in the car, but the corner workers don't appear ready to let him. That team will have the added presence of John Barnard, Ferrari's chief designer and recognized as the top designer in Formula One. It was announced officially this weekend John Barnard will be with the Benetton Ford team next year. We'll take a quick break. We won't let you miss out on a thing. You'll be back in Spain before you know it. Stay with us. Back to classical southern Spain and the Formula One Grand Prix of Spain from Jerez de la Frontera, if you choose to use the local dialect. Coming up Tuesday night here on ESPN, live boxing action at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Junior welterweight, 10 rounds between Vinny Burgess and Owen McGeechee, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, live here on ESPN. You're watching live the Grand Prix of Spain. Your leader is Ayrton Senna, followed by Gerhard Berger, Alain Prost, Riccardo Patrese, Pierluigi Martini, and Emanuele Pirot. Filling out the top 10, Philippe Alliot, Martin Brundle, Jean Alesi, Dr. Jonathan Palmer. Sandro Nannini finally climbed from his Benetton, so he is now out of the race.
But his car is in the gravel out there somewhere. I'm not exactly sure of the location, but being in gravel obviously is a runoff area, and it could well be in the way. I've no doubt we will see it sooner or later from either Alain Prost or Ayrton Senna's onboard camera. And we can see from that just exactly how safe or unsafe it is.
You're watching Alain Prost, who has come so close to so many world championships. In 1983, he missed by 2 points to Nelson Piquet, losing in the final race of the year. In 1984, he lost by 1/2 of a point to his McLaren teammate Niki Lauda, again in the last race at Portugal. 1985, he won his first championship, did it again in 86. In 87, he was fourth behind Piquet, Nigel Mansell, and Ayrton Senna. There you see Nannini's car being lifted off. You can rest easy, David. And last year, of course, Prost finished second to teammate Ayrton Senna by 3 points, despite scoring a record 105 points in the season. You ask, why did he not win that championship? Only your 11 best point-scoring finishes count. If you score more than 11, you have to drop one that you scored earlier.
It just seems to me such an extraordinary system. In the end, of course, the guy who wins the most races then gets the championship. But last year, it wasn't as if he just stroked around. I mean, the guy won 6 races and still lost the championship, even though he had far more points than his teammates. Still, that's water under the bridge now. And the same thing could happen this year as well, because he's 20 points ahead of Senna at the moment, but he has by no means got this championship locked up.
24 points ahead, counting our finish last weekend in Portugal. And for his part, Senna, as you watch Riccardo Patrese, making his 190th career Formula One start. That's a record, and it gets longer with each passing race. Senna might lose this year's championship despite having won more races than anyone else.
Well, of course, that has happened before, and it also happens in reverse, where the champion has won fewer races than other drivers and won the championship. But there's usually been some sort of mitigating circumstance. But I think between these two, Prost and Senna, they're so close on wins, it almost seems a shame that one of them's got to lose it.
It happened back in 1977 when our own Mario Andretti won 4 races. Niki Lauda won 3, but still won the championship. In 1982, Keke Rosberg won the world title with just 1 victory, while 4 different drivers, including Alain Prost, ironically, won twice. And way back in 1958, Mike Hawthorne won just 1 race, but he won the championship. Sterling Moss and Tony Brooks each won 3 races that season.
I think a fairer way of scoring, quite honestly, would be to score all the races, but for the winner to score a lot more points. Instead of, say, 9-6, it should be 12-6. So there's a very clear-cut case of the winner really making some serious points.
Well, explain that to the folks at NASCAR. That Winston Cup scoring boggles the mind.
Well, that is so close, it's unbelievable.
There are your 2 leaders running around in lockstep. Future teammates, Ayrton Senna of Brazil and Gerhard Berger of Austria. Berger created a furor last year when his 2 years of required government service were negotiated in such a way that he could serve them during the off-season. Berger came up with a novel way to solve that whole problem. He moved to Monte Carlo, and now he won't serve any service in Austria.
And will pay considerably less tax, but I suppose he wasn't thinking about that.
A little bit of gravy. You are on board with perhaps the finest driver on earth right now, Ayrton Senna. No question, he is simply Mr. Showtime when it comes to 1 lap of qualifying in Formula One. The stands will be packed just to watch this man come out and run around for less than 2 minutes very late in the day. It only takes him 1 lap, and he does it better than anyone.
And, of course, the amazing thing is it doesn't matter what the other guys do, he still comes out and tops it.
I believe that's Alex Caffey in the Dallara pits.
So there's the first of the Pirelli shod runners in for a pit stop. Whoops, having trouble with the left front.
Very slow pit stop by Formula One standards.
Now there's a car. Alex Caffey and the Dallara have really... Oh, number 18. Is that Piercarlo Genzani? I think that's Genzani out of the race. So that makes both Ostellas out of the race. For the first time this year, they both made it in. Or one of the only times this year they both made it in. Paolo Larini had a very early on retirement with a crash, and now we see Piercarlo Genzani out as well.
37-year-old Piercarlo Genzani in his last season of Formula One, most of it spent with the Osella team. Very well-liked individual, but he has not had a whole lot of success in Formula One. There is Berger making his way around. Remember earlier this year, his fiery crash at Imola. He skipped the next race at Monaco. His hands have still not quite fully healed, but he has worked his way back to fitness, finishing second in Monaco and then getting a well-deserved victory last weekend in Portugal. And now he wants another one this weekend.
There we see the Brundle rear cam looking out at John Alesi, Tyrrell's bright up-and-coming young driver.
There's the sound of Brundle's V8. It's a Judd engine based on a Honda block built by John Judd in Great Britain.
This long long left-hander now. A little bit of a straight there, then another long left-hander. This one really works the old tyres and the neck. It seems to be just a bit quicker through there than the Tyrrell, but the Tyrrell makes up for it on braking. At least he seems to be able to brake just a little bit deeper.
Saw that empty grandstand in the background. Tickets are not terribly expensive here in Spain, but they've had some trouble, to be quite frank, getting crowds out to this race. A couple of the key points are full of people, but a couple of the grandstands further out do not have many folks in them at all. Tickets come as cheaply as about $25 for a child, as much as $150 if you want a prime seat. A knot of traffic here includes
Pirro
in the Benetton, Martini, I believe.
That's
yes.
Pelly, of course, some laps down. And then right behind him is the Brabham. Now John Elise. That was, crikey, that was John Elise's way of saying to Martin Brundle, thanks a bunch for blocking me for the first 21 laps of this race. Now it'll be interesting to see if John Elise really can put some daylight between himself and Brundle. But boy, he really stuck it to him then as they exited turn 1.
Look from high above, the 2.6-mile Circuito
More
de
fines, I would think, are now imminent if anybody from FISA was watching that. We worked it out this week. This last 7 days, we're about $130,000 worth of fines been paid by various drivers. Here we see it again. Elise gets him up the inside. A clean pass. Brundle tries to block him all the time. Now Elise comes off the corner a bit slower.
That was the earlier pass,
but he
by
is
Elise.
not going to let him through again.
That was the second right there, a combination of slow motion replays. Meanwhile, back up front, Ayrton Senna with that enormous wing. The cars are set for downforce, double-tiered wings. Some of them look like they came off of 747s.
Well, the sort of wing setup they've got here, probably at around about 150 miles an hour, which is their max here, they're probably developing a couple of £1,000 of downforce. In other words, if you stuck it on the ceiling, it would very easily stay up there at 150 miles an hour. A bit difficult getting up there in the first place, but...
True, climbing in and out would be a problem. Well, out wouldn't be a problem, just let go of the safety catch. Earlier in the weekend, when it became clear that Berger and Senna might well be battling for the victory here in Spain, Senna was asked whether he expected any sort of comradely courtesy from his future teammate Gerhard Berger. He said he expected no favors, but he did expect courtesy. Back in traffic once again. Looked like Derek Warwick and the white USF&G Arrows in the middle.
I think he's right behind Andrea De Cesaris, which should be a little bit of a worry to him. Behind him is Sala, who has made a fantastic recovery from a terrible grid position, 20th on the grid, now running in 13th spot.
And doing it in front of thousands of his countrymen. Luis Perez Sala, the only Spaniard in Formula One. We're going to take another quick timeout, and we won't let you miss a thing. You're watching live the Formula One Grand Prix of Spain. More in a moment. Spain, we hope you're enjoying our live coverage of the Formula One Grand Prix of Spain. Your leader is Ayrton Senna of Brazil, followed by Gerhard Berger in a Ferrari. Behind them, Alain Prost and Riccardo Patrese. Right now, we'd like to welcome a special guest to our announced position, a man who helped bring McLaren back to its prominence in Formula One, John Watson. John, welcome, and your impressions thus far of this race.
Well, so far, Bob, it's really fairly standard. Ayrton Senna lead from the front and dominate the race, but Gerhard Berger has been giving him a hard time, and really, I feel if Berger was able to get in front of Senna's car, he could pull away. Senna right now has got the advantage in horsepower, and he knows how best to use it.
During our break, Martin Brundle made a pit stop for tires. As we saw last week in Portugal, pit stops can really be the key to a race like this.
Well, we're going to see a number of pit stops today. Most of the teams are anticipating one pit stop, and depending how the tire wear looks after that, they may even consider a second one. So first pit stop's very crucial to the outcome of what the rest of the race will be.
Pierluigi Martini making a stop, but the boys up front have yet to come in. John, you know Ron Dennis and the McLaren organization quite well as we watch. Very close call there. One of the Brabhams and one of the Arrows.
Martin Brundle again.
John, you know Dennis quite well. What is the sentiment within the McLaren organization right now following the events of last weekend?
Well, they were very, very unhappy about the whole situation. They have gone into considerable lengths to clarify their view of the situation. Ron Dennis feels that there was somewhat unfair play on the part of the Ferrari team, of which Nigel Mansell, being the driver, is an incremental member. But here today they're doing the job they know how to do best, and they're going to try and help win the World Championship for one of their two drivers. And right now Senna needs to win all 3 races to win the championship, and if he keeps going like this, well, who wants to bet against him not winning it?
Who wants to bet indeed? Looking out our tail cam aboard Martin Brundle's car, I believe that's Derek Warwick and the Arrows behind.
Now, of course, Martin Brundle has just had a stop, so but he is still in front of Derek Warwick. Derek Warwick not having a very happy weekend with the US F&G Arrow, nor is his teammate Eddie Cheever, who is some way still behind him.
John Watson, you've raced here at Jerez often. What do you think the effect of those rain showers this morning might be on the consistency of this racetrack?
Well, certainly the rain we had just before the start of the race would have washed off some of the rubber. That's very important for the race tires. The more rubber you have, the better the tire is going to live. So the track went from being nice and slick to being rather green. So that's a big worry for the tire companies, and they will certainly have to monitor it closely.
Ooh, Martin Brundle taking his courage in both hands there, trying to go on the inside of Andrea de Cesaris as they go into turn 1. Nearly made it. Of course, both those cars are Pirelli shod, and right behind them is Derek Warwick in a Goodyear shod car. He hasn't made a stop, but of course Brundle has stopped and has got a new set of tyres on, and is showing it too. Really putting on some good pace at the moment.
Behind them is Luis Sala of Spain. Behind him, American Eddie Cheever in the Arrows car. Unfortunately, Eddie will not be with Arrows next year. There's a look at him. One of the McLarens is in, and John Bizignano is standing by in their pit.
Alan Prost is coming in for the first McLaren
right into the perfect stopping position. All 4 tires off. Perfect McLaren efficiency. A little trouble with the left front, but the gun is going hard. Right rear, a little trouble. And the 12-cylinder Honda, very quick stop. Excellent job by McLaren.
We're going to have to start using full names. We have John Watson, former McLaren Formula 1 driver, in our booth, and John Bizignano down there on pit road. Not a great stop, but a fairly good one. Wouldn't you agree, John?
Yes, he got in and out reasonably well, but I'm sure he personally would not have been happy to lose 2 or 3 seconds in a pit stop. Is very, very difficult these days to make up on the track. But he's back in the race again, fresh tyres, an early stop for Prost and the McLaren. That may give him some advantage as the race progresses.
He made that pit stop on lap 26 as we look at a Spanish TV replay.
Was, Martin Brundle finally getting around Andrea de Cesaris, and Derek Warwick thought he might have a go at the same time, but decided against it. That was at that far hairpin up in the hills here.
John was getting ahead of himself in the pits. He called it a V12 Honda. It's actually a V10, but there will be a V12, we are told, in the McLarens next year. I believe this is Sala making his pit stop on the Minardi team. And I can't say enough about how far Minardi has come with their organization this year. They were strictly a back-of-the-pack group early on this season at Rio and at Imola and at Monaco, but they have really come on strongly, consistent qualifiers in the top 10 to 12 places, and they may be a threat to win a race before too very long.
Wow, Senna has yet to make a stop, Riccardo Patrese has yet to make a stop, and Emanuele Pirro running in 5th place, going extremely well. Riccardo Patrese is in right now as we speak.
14 crew members from the Williams team descend on the car. One pulls off the old tire, one puts on the new one. One man with the wrench alone. That usually accounts for 7-second pit stop. But this is very long. He is still in the pits. Patrese is still in the pits. Now he rolls once again.
And he's got the same right rear on. They never did take the right. I don't think they changed the right rear. It looks like it didn't have a sticker on. It could have been a used tyre, but I think that was the one they were having trouble with. Maybe John will find out. John Bizignano will find out.
That stop also on lap 27, so it looks like Alain Prost and Riccardo Patrese may be in line for a second tire stop if this track heats up and eats up any more of those Goodyears. There is Senna now working traffic, which he does better than anybody else around. One of the English motorsports journalists used a great word, said Senna shimmers through traffic.
Is that the word that you would use, John? Shimmers through traffic?
We've got another car on pit road. This is Berger. John Bizignano is in the Ferrari pits.
Gerhard Berger not doing what his teammate did last weekend, coming in actually a little slow. Ferrari's been practicing their stops. They thought that they were a little bit freaked after after last week, but not this one. That had to be a good 6-second pit stop, and that is, I may be right this time, a V12 going out of the pits.
It is indeed, and it got a big thumbs up from Mr. John Watson.
Yes, and Bob, that could be the winning pit stop in this race. Over the last number of Grand Prix, we've seen some very slow pit stops for the two McLarens, and Ayrton Senna has yet to come in. His pit stop is now going to be under pressure because Berger's one was so good.
Capelli just stopped in front of the pits, not in pit lane. He's pulled up at the start-finish line, so it looks like Capelli's day is run. Meanwhile, his teammate Mauricio Gugelmin is up to 14th spot now.
We've got another pit stop there. Looks like
Philippe Alliot.
Philippe Alliot. Those are the Tyrrell pits. No, excuse me. That is the Lola Lamborghini pits, and he is waving his hands
He's
as
got
if
his
to say...
visor up. No, it's all right, I think. Oh, they got a problem with their left rear.
The left rear.
Nothing. Oh, here we go. What's happening here? Somebody.
That's one of the Martinis.
Yeah.
One of the Minardis.
Just missing disaster there, and it's not over yet. My. That is Martini. Oh, what a heartbreak for Martini, who qualified.
And here comes Ayrton Senna. Let's have a look at his pit stop.
This could be a world champion pit stop for Ayrton Senna. Everything must be perfect. Every crew member knows that. They're cleaning an awful lot of rubbish out of the radiators. Ayrton Senna, no trouble whatsoever in the McLaren pits.
7.5 seconds unofficially for Ayrton Senna's pit stop, and you may be right, John. That one may at least help him defend his world championship.
Well, I hope to see what happens now. Senna should be coming out of the pits just as Berger goes past, but I suspect Berger has just retained the lead. But let's have a look and see.
Clear track around Gerhard Berger. Just turned 30 at Spa, Belgium earlier this year. There's Emmanuel Pirot, I believe, in the Benetton, making his pit stop. Let's hear from John.
Pirot, the young Italian, he almost killed the engine. My gosh, they dropped the car down, and all the RPM went right down to zero, but he got it started right on the last click. A very good pit stop for Benetton with only one car left in the race.
Well, aside from Ricardo Patrese problems, I'd see we're seeing some dandy competition between the crews in the pits. Some really quick stops. And we're seeing a little blue smoke from the back of the Ferrari.
Yes, just as he came around the circle, something came out of the back of the Ferrari. It may have been dust on the road from a car going off. We're looking at it now. It seems not to be doing it anymore, but it's something to watch for on the back of the Ferrari. Maybe the gearbox problem that's bothered them throughout the year.
This is Terry Boutsen in the new Williams Renault.
Now, who has in fact leading this race? Is Ayrton Senna still in front? Did he go out in front of Berger?
Boutsen pitting in 14th position. It's been a long weekend with this new car. They're developing it as they race it, which they did a week ago in Portugal. We'll take an opportunity then to take a look at our lap chart, see if we can figure out who is leading the Spanish Grand Prix, and we'll tell you all about it when we return in a moment. Track Facts are brought to you by USF&G Asset Management, a network to better manage money, people, property, and equipment.
Carbon fiber has been the miracle material of Formula One for almost a decade. It delivers very lightweight strength to body panels and chassis design. But there was one area still reserved for the strength of cold, hard steel. And that, of course, was the rollover bar. But enter the Tyrrell 018. This actually has a carbon fiber rollover bar that is an integrated part of the chassis mold. This one piece of very strong carbon fiber acts as the driver's headrest, the front of the engine cover, the air intake, and of course the rollover bar. It even houses the lifting and towing strap. Carbon fiber. For the last 9 years, it's been protecting the feet, legs, and bodies of Formula One drivers. In the future, it's going to be protecting their heads when everything turns upside down in Formula One.
That, of course, the memorable crash at the French Grand Prix earlier this year for Mauricio Gugelmin in the March. We have Eddie Cheever down in the Arrows pits, and John is there.
But Eddie Cheever, the only American in this race, he's absolutely covered with oil, and he has a bigger problem than just changing 4 tires. They are going to change the whole nose section on that car. The left front wing has definitely made contact with the right rear wheel, or maybe the left rear wheel of another competitor. There is marks all over the front of this car. Eddie Cheever in for a bit of a stay.
Oh, and that will be just deadly to his chances in this race. There is Gerhard Berger running in second position. Our Chiron earlier showed him first. He is actually second. Let's see if we get a look at, this is Senna's pass, I believe, on the Dallara on the backside. Senna is your leader, followed by Berger. Alain Prost holding station in third, followed by Jean Alesi, the young Frenchman from Avignon, having a great race today. Fifth place is Emanuele Pirot, another young driver doing well. Riccardo Patrese, the ultimate veteran in his 190th career Grand Prix race, runs in sixth position. The rest of your top 10, Dr. Jonathan Palmer in the Tyrrell, Martin Brundle in the Brabham, Philippe Alliot, and Maurizio Gugelmin. Looking out the back of Martin Brundle's car. We've seen the crew cam on ESPN earlier this year. This is the tail cam. Martin Brundle, the former world champion.
He's looking at Dr. Jonathan Palmer, and Brundle and Palmer running in 7th and 8th position, gradually making their way up through the field here. But I'm not sure that Palmer and Alesi have stopped yet.
Well, I think Alesi for sure has started on the harder B compound tyre, and the belief in Ken Tyrrell's camp is that they can run that tyre and be reasonably competitive. They may get through the entire race without a pit stop, so we really should watch certainly Alesi in 4th place.
And they also, of course, wouldn't have to buy any new tyres and have a pit stop.
Ken is very cost conscious, David.
Well, sometimes it works. It certainly worked in Mexico a couple of years ago when Gerhard Berger won his first victory driving for Benetton at that time by going all the way on Pirelli tires.
The only trouble with that is you do take a bit of a risk if it gets slippery later on. If any oil and dust gets down, the harder compound tires then start to get a bit slippery as they get worn out.
You've heard the top 10. In 11th place is Nelson Piquet. Behind him, Luis Sala of Spain, Andrea de Cesaris, Olivier Guyard, Derek Warwick, Terry Boutsen, Alex Caffey, and Eddie Cheever. Those 18 cars remain of the 26 original starters. Shown 19th right now. He is out of the race. Pierluigi Martini, who started 4th and had so much promise shown today.
Well, with Riccardo Patrese running in 6th and Thierry Boutsen running in 16th, it certainly appears as if Riccardo made the right choice to going back a year on his car.
David, I think very much it's a case of Williams deciding who's the number 1 and number 2 driver in the Williams teams. And Riccardo Patrese had the choice of running the 88 car, which is proving to be more competitive. Terry Boutsen was given the 89 car to do a bit of race mileage and race testing. I think that's indicative of where Williams placed their 2 drivers.
Which I no doubt will be very disappointing for Thierry, because when he went to Williams, I'm sure that he felt, as did most people, that he would be the number 1 driver. But his driving has not been of the caliber this year that has put him in a secure number 1 position.
There is Prost in the number 2 McLaren Honda, making his way through turns 3 and 4. Very tight right-hander here. Many of the turns on this course are named for sherry brands: Dry Sack, Peliqui, Ducados. One turn is even named Ferrari, and one is named Angel Nieto, honoring a Spanish Grand Prix motorcycle world champion of some years ago. Speaking of
having names like that, Bob, it doesn't make any of these corners of the Jerez circuit any easier. It is one of the most demanding circuits on the Grand Prix circuit, and certainly from the experience I had here in the sports car, doing 1 hour in the sports car is like doing 5 hours anywhere else. It's really tough.
And of course the sun has come out again since we started the show and since the race started. It's now very, very warm out there, and of course these drivers probably liked it before with the cloud cover. Not saying they wanted the rain, but that cloud cover would have probably been a big relief here.
Indeed, our chance of rain, which was 40% at the start of the day, is now a great deal less than that. The skies are clearing. The wind's still very strong, gusting to 25 miles an hour or perhaps more, right up the front straightaway behind the drivers. There is your leader, Ayrton Senna of Brazil. Senna has 5 victories in this season to 4 for his teammate Alain Prost. He needs every win he can grab now. Because he does not have his 11-point scoring finishes yet, he will count every point to the end of the season. 9 for winning, 6 for second, 4 for third, 3 for fourth, 2 for fifth, and 1 point for 6th place. Prost will be dropping points. If he scores 3 or more points today, he will drop the 3 points he earned with a 4th place finish in Hungary earlier this year.
So he's on a bit of a hiding to nothing, but of course Senna really does absolutely have to win at least 2 of the remaining 3 races, including this one, and be second in the other one. So he's really just got to stay exactly where he is. Berger is behind him, but is losing ground slowly but surely. Coming up to lap one of the slower cars there. Did he let him through? Yeah. Didn't see the picture suddenly take a nasty shape.
Word from the Ferrari pits is that there is nothing wrong with Gerhard Berger's car. We mentioned fluid or dust we saw behind the car earlier. Ferrari say they know nothing about it, and Gerhard Berger is holding station in second.
Right in front of Senna now is his countryman, Nelson Piquet. Feelings between these two has not always been at its best. I don't suppose that Piquet will do anything particularly unfriendly, but he just won't make it very, very easy for his countryman to pass him on this difficult to pass on circuit.
We're going to take another time out here. You're watching live the Grand Prix of Spain. Your leader is Ayrton Senna, followed by Gerhard Berger, and some waving going on in Ayrton's cockpit. We'll be back. Spain may be known as the center of the world sherry industry, but it is also justifiably proud of its textiles, and it's time to pick the cotton here in Jerez. In 3 weeks' time, we will be in Suzuka, Japan for the penultimate round of the Formula One World Championship, Monday at 12:30 in the morning, followed by the other most exotic locale in the series, Adelaide, Australia, Sunday, November 5th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Ayrton Senna is the leader of the Spanish Grand Prix. There you see Gerhard Berger making his way around in second position, as he has been since the start of the race.
And he also had an awful job just a few moments ago while we were gone to the commercial, getting around Nelson Piquet, who really made life extremely difficult for him.
Nelson Piquet has been quite an interesting character this weekend. He and designer John Barnard were the stars of a party thrown by the Benetton team. Ooh, some passing action there. Gugelmin on the left in the march, trying to get around a Tyrrell, Sala, and behind them Berger, who wants to make time. He has to get past these guys. Senna's getting away.
Berger has just found himself in the worst possible situation when he's involved, and these guys are having a tremendous duke out. Meanwhile, Ayrton Senna's got an absolutely clear road in front of him, and Berger is boxed in with this group of guys who are all racing amongst each other, and of course probably don't even know he's there.
Well, he slipped that box. Now all he has in front of him is Gugelmin in the march, and Gugelmin's getting right along despite his earlier problems. Shown 9th right now.
Having started, of course, dead last. Very little, well, he had practice yesterday up to when he crashed his car, and very, very little qualifying.
None at all on Saturday. As a matter of fact, neither of the March drivers went out on the second day, which is extraordinary in Formula One. As a result, they were the only two drivers who did not improve their positions, and they wound up starting 19th, and as David just mentioned, 26th in the case of Gugelmin.
Might be slightly ironic that Nelson Piquet, who's running 12th, is going to replace Emmanuel Pirot with the Benetton team next year. And of course, Pirot, just right at the moment, is running in a particularly strong 4th position.
Another little spray of something, a little rooster tail from the back of the Ferrari. Might not signal trouble, but then again, we are just past halfway. 73 laps scheduled. They're working lap 37.
That smoke comes and goes. It's difficult to get a grip on what it is. It could be locking up brakes. Of course, it could be any oil falling onto a hot part of the car. Senna up the pit straight into turn 1. Berger not so far behind, but he is 4 seconds down, and of course had a lot of trouble on that last lap getting around those guys who are all racing together, and he still has to get around Mauricio Gugelmin.
Let's go get a report from the pits and John Bizignano.
Well, the report is that it is very windy down here. Both you gentlemen, or all three of you gentlemen, were talking earlier about the fact that wind does affect race cars, and especially down the raceway on the straightaway. When you have a trailing wind, it lessens your downforce because the wind is going along with the car, but it can also push the car faster and therefore exceed your maximum RPMs. John Watson, a question to you. And David, have you ever been caught out by the wind going down a long straightaway, folks?
Yes, indeed we have, and not maybe so much on a circuit like this where it's a relatively short straight. The gearing, the top gear is not quite so critical, but somewhere, say, where you've got a very long straight, Silverstone is a very good example where the wind shift can really affect you and you can get caught out. And in fact, even just last weekend, the Benetton and the Williams were both seriously caught out by the change in wind direction, and they were both coming on the rev limiters before they're even halfway down the straight, and there was a serious effect for them in the race.
But you do need a longer straight than here. both the straights, this being one of them, are pretty short, 155 miles an hour being about the top end. But I would imagine that strong wind blowing across the last two very, very fast right-hand sweepers could upset the handling of it, blow the car out of it.
No apparent problem right now for Ayrton Senna, who has almost a 5-second gap over Gerhard Berger in second. Senna doing just what he needed to do. Take the pole, lead the race, win it if you can. He must win here, he must win again, and finish second minimum in the third and final race of the season to have any hope of retaining his world championship.
And Alain Prost really doing everything he possibly can do except win. Of course, that would be the only way that Alain Prost could absolutely lock up proceedings this year, would be to win this race.
You're watching live the Spanish Grand Prix here on ESPN. Bob Varsha, David Hobbs, and our special guest, John Watson, former McLaren Formula One driver and sports car ace, John Bizignano, in his usual position down there on pit road. We hope you're enjoying it. I can promise you we are.
The sun there shining on this track, getting very much hotter out there. Probably making 30, 35 gear shifts a lap. Some of these lads will start to get a bit tired now, about an hour, nearly an hour into this race.
Young Emmanuel Lapiro running in third position right now, doing quite well, 27 years old. He will be bounced from this seat next year when Nelson Piquet comes calling to the Benetton team. Watching overhead at Senna. Down into turn one he goes. I mentioned Piquet earlier being the guest of his new employers at a party the other night. I spoke with him there, and on his way here aboard his 100-foot sailboat, he ran into a stranded sailor, someone who had been offshore for 2 weeks when they ran out of fuel. He loaned them some fuel, sent them on their way, and he was the hero of the weekend. There is Dr. Jonathan Palmer with the Tyrrell in the pits. John Watson mentioned earlier that they had not pitted yet. Now Palmer apparently deciding he needs new rubber.
Well, Alesi came in just a few laps ago, so their ploy of trying to get through on using B compound didn't seem to work too well.
I think running B compound was a choice that was not endorsed by the tire company, and Tyrrell always likes to do something that's a little bit different. It's a bit of a gamble. He may have gone 1-on-1 depending on which driver, which preference, but really when everybody else is going on one compound, to take a chance and do something different really is going outside of the majority, and I think that's a wrong decision.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, unless, of course, some of those early stoppers on the C's are going to have to come in again.
Part of the drama still to unfold at the Spanish Grand Prix, I should say. Emmanuel Pirro now running third. That would be his best finish ever. His previous best, 8th earlier this year in Hungary. More from Spain in a moment. You're watching live the Formula One Spanish Grand Prix here on ESPN, round 14 in the 16-race Formula One series. I need to make a quick correction. I mentioned Pirro running in third position. He is actually 4th. It is Senna, Berger, Prost, and Pirro. On behalf of all of us at ESPN, and I'm sure all the Formula One drivers up and down the pit lane, congratulations to Brazil's Emerson Fittipaldi on winning the CART PPG IndyCar World Championship a week ago in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. That makes he and Mario Andretti the only drivers to win both Formula One World Championships and the IndyCar National Championship. I'm sure Mr. Bernie Ecclestone of Formula One would want me to say.
And in both cases, Mario and Emerson, they have both won the Indy 500 itself, which is probably in American terms an even more important achievement than winning the championship almost.
Along with another world champion, Graham Hill, I believe, did the same.
The only thing he did, the other two didn't. He won the Le Mans 24-hour race as well, but of course he never won the IndyCar championship. So there's lots of permutations out there.
Ayrton Senna is your leader. There is Mauricio Gugelmin in the march. Behind him, Luis Sala of Spain. You can bet all eyes in this crowd of probably 40 to 50,000, I would guess, watching. Their man, Luis Perez Sala, who has really taken a back seat to his teammate, Pierluigi Martini, all weekend. But Sala has been working his way up, too.
And of course, on the day that counts, Sala is still out there in 10th spot. And Pierluigi Martini had that early spin, which put him out of the running and out of the race. And of course, Sala is going to be the Spanish hero today.
We'll give you a look at the cars that are out of the race to this point. Satoru Nakajima went out on lap 1, turn 3, as I remember. Nicola Larini is out with the Osella. Sandro Nannini in the Benetton. Stefano Modena has parked his Brabham. Piercarlo Ghinzani has parked the other Osella. JJ Leito, the 23-year-old Finn, standing in for Bertrand Gachot in the Onyx, is now out, along with Ivan Capelli in the March, Pierluigi Martini in the Minardi car, and Olivier Gouillard in the only Ligier in today's race. You are aboard with one of the McLaren Hondas. This is Ayrton Senna.
And he's about to put away Philippe Alliot, who qualified so well yesterday, but not running quite so well today. But he is also, Ayrton Senna is putting a lot of ground between himself and Gerhard Berger now. There's
that's the international signal for get out of the way.
Dear Philippe Alliot doesn't have quite as large a rear view mirror on his car as Ayrton Senna's has on today. This is actually a much larger mirror. I believe it was put there because of the television camera being mounted on his Marlboro McLaren. I think Philippe Alliot could do with it.
It does bring out the problem that we mentioned earlier, how difficult it is to pass. With a car like the McLaren Honda that is superior to the Lola Lamborghini, still even a driver of Ayrton Senna's ability is having trouble getting around.
Yes, the Lola Lamborghini, the Lamborghini engine is actually a very good engine, particularly in the bottom end of the rev range, and that's why it's making Senna's life rather difficult. The Lamborghini can accelerate off these slow corners quite quickly. Senna's losing his momentum and he's getting more and more angry, and Alliot either is totally ignorant or totally oblivious to the fact that Senna's there trying to pass him. This is your race leader getting held up by somebody running. Where is he running? Oh, it doesn't really make much difference, but he should be getting out of the way and letting the race leader go through and get on with the job of winning a race.
Totally oblivious or totally ignorant, or both?
I would say yes.
Obliviously ignorant.
I would say yes.
There's Senna, manages to make it, though. Senna is now past Alliot and making his way down the front straightaway, reaching speeds in excess of 155 miles an hour.
Well, that no doubt gave Gerhard Berger, it would have given Gerhard Berger a bit of a breather and allowed him to catch up with Senna, but he was having his own problems getting around Guljimin and Luis Perez-Sala, who were locked in a race. And unfortunately, Berger was unable to capitalize on Senna's bit of balking there from Philippe Alliot.
Clear track in front of him once again.
Gap. 10.4 seconds between Senna in front and Gerhard Berger in the Ferrari.
There is yet another statistical milestone at stake in this race. McLaren is now tied for career Formula One victories with Lotus at 79 each. A victory here by Ayrton Senna or Alain Prost would break that tie and move McLaren into a clean second place with 80 victories behind Ferrari's all-time best 97. That 97th, of course, won in Portugal last week.
Well, I think certainly it's going to be a long time before we can see another Lotus victory. I'm very sad, in fact, to hear that, or to say that, but this is one team that's really gotten down to the bottom of Formula One and has got a long, long way to go before we can get to the top, and let's show the kind of domination that we saw in the 60s with Jim Clark, and then with Jochen Rindt and latterly Emerson Fittipaldi, and finally with Mario Andretti. And really, since Mario's championship in '78, we have not really seen Lotus domination. A few brief years that Senna had with Lotus did bring them success, but not the consistency that Senna has enjoyed and McLaren are enjoying over the last 5 years.
Do you think that the Lamborghini engine will help Lotus next year at all?
Martin Brundle, excuse me, gentlemen, just took a look to the inside of Senna and surprised the heck out of me.
I think he's surprised at everything out of Senna.
Well,
that was not what he was expecting.
Senna was
quickly he opens the gap up once again.
The McLaren and Senna, the combination on these fast sweeps is pretty awe-inspiring to watch, I must admit.
Now, according to our electronic timing system, fast lap of the race after we finished thrashing him around has been set by Philippe Alliot on lap 32 at a 1:26, very close to the lap record.
Yeah, holding up Ayrton Senna.
46 laps are complete of a scheduled 73. It is Senna followed by Berger, Prost, Pirot, Riccardo Patrese is in 5th, 6th is young Jean Alesi, 7th is Martin Brundle, who you saw dicing there with Senna briefly. 8th is Philippe Alliot. 9th is Maurizio Gugelmin. And 10th, Luis Perez-Sala. The top 7 cars, ending with Brundle, are on the lead lap. Alliot in 8th place is a lap down.
Well, now, of course, Brundle is, because that's what Senna was doing just a few moments ago, was lapping Brundle. So I guess that Senna has already lapped up to 6th spot.
All up and down pit lane. Crews are ready for another tire stop. And if what we've seen thus far is suggestive of what's going to happen the rest of the race, we'll be certainly seeing some more pit action. Keep in mind, Senna must win this race, or at least finish second and finish with his teammate Prost behind him. If Prost wins here today in Spain, he wins his third World Championship. If Senna finishes third or worst, Prost wins the World Championship here in Spain. If Senna wins and Prost is second, they will go to Japan in 3 weeks, and you'll see it here on ESPN with a possible tie in store, which Senna would then win on the basis of more victories this season. If Senna finishes first and Prost third or worse, Senna will make up ground, and we will go to Japan to do it again. And we've got
Salah and Gugelmin. Salah tried to dive down the inside of Gugelmin in the second turn, rode over his right rear wheel, rode over the back of the car, and ended up in the sand pit. His race is finished, and Gugelmin's is likewise out for the day.
There is Gugelmin climbing from his march. What a weekend he's had. To the right of the screen, another look.
A very ambitious play by Salah. There was no way really to get through. Gugelmin was committed to turning in, and Salah really misjudged his overtaking maneuver, and I'm afraid that's the end of the day for the Spanish fans, for the Spanish driver.
What did that remind you of, I asked?
A very carbon copy of last week's episode in Portugal. But it was a pretty, as John said, an extremely adventurous move on the part of Salah, and really brought the end of a desperately unhappy weekend to Mauricio Gugelmin and the whole of that Leighton House team. Capelli already being out of the race.
They were in 9th and 10th positions as you watch Luis Sala walking away in front of his home crowd. That is Mauricio Gugelmin. Passing the scene is your leader, Ayrton Senna, with hardly a backward glance. Here's another look, perhaps a little cleaner on the videotape.
I think that overtaking maneuver was very, very ambitious. What we saw last week with Senna and Mansell was much more open to debate, but that one was definitely Salah's fault. There was no way to get through Gugelmin turning into turn 2, and just over-ambitious, inexperienced youth. Home crowd, let's give it to him as home crowd.
Home crowd bravado.
And it certainly ends Gugelmin's march from 26th and dead last on the grid up to 9th place before it all went up in a cloud of dust. We'll be back to Spain.
I like Derek Warwick a hell of a lot. He's got a real good character to him.
My friend is Nannini.
I have one friend in Formula One. It's Nelson Piquet.
But I'm good friends with Jonathan Palmer. All the Brits tend to stick together, but everything is just a little bit arm's length.
Stefan Johansson was my teammate, Nigel Mansell or Nelson Piquet. I have a lot of friends.
I'm a new teammate for next year, Alain Prost.
I have a good relationship with Gerhard, with Gugelmin, with Boutsen.
And I think I will be friend when either me or the other people stop, but now you compete against each other, so you can only get that close but not too close. So I'm easy with everybody but not close to anybody.
That may have been the best answer of all. You'll notice that Prost and Senna did not name each other first or even at all when it came to their best friends.
Most peculiar. And that was, we just saw Senna there overtaking Piquet again. Piquet must have stopped for another set of tyres, and it induced a bit of front wheel locking from Senna, as we see here. His right front locked up severely going into one of these tighter right-hand corners. Let's hope for his sake that he hasn't flat-spotted that tyre, necessitating him to come in and change that again, although this late in the race he'll probably stick it out unless it's very bad vibration.
You're watching live the Spanish Grand Prix, where 6 cars remain on the lead lap. Your leader, this man, Ayrton Senna, followed by Gerhard Berger, Alain Prost, Emanuele Pirro, Riccardo Patrese, and Jean Alesi. Lots of driver changing coming up next season in Formula One. You know that Prost will go to Ferrari, Berger will go from Ferrari to McLaren, Derek Warwick will leave the Arrows team to go to Lotus, Eddie Cheever will leave Arrows to go who knows where. We understand Dr. Jonathan Palmer may be looking for some work in the near future. Nelson Piquet goes from Lotus to Benetton to partner Sandro Nannini. Satoru Nakajima will leave the Lotus team. Piercarlo Ghinzani will retire. Nicola Larini will go from Osella to Ligier to partner Olivier Grouillard. Emanuele Pirro, despite his good showing today, doesn't have work for next year that we know of. The oldest man in the game, René Arnoux, who knows where the 7-time Grand Prix winner will be. And Michele Alboreto, rumored to be coming to the Arrows team.
Bob, I heard a little story today that may be of interest to the Eddie Cheever fans, and that he is considering retiring from Formula One. I don't think he sees himself getting a really competitive front-running drive.
Excuse me, briefly, we're seeing lots of smoke from the back of that Ferrari right now. There's definitely something amiss on that race car. Go ahead, John.
Okay.
We're going to make it back.
Thierry Boutsen's car on the back of the truck, being brought in from outside on the surface somewhere.
There's Berger. Perhaps John Bizignano can check with the Ferrari people once again.
He's got problems. It's finished. His race is over for the day.
Quickly, your point about Eddie Cheever. Martin Brundle is off in the Brabham.
Eddie Cheever may well be rejoining Tom Walkinshaw in the Jaguars to run in the World Sports Car Championship next year. The story seems fairly firm.
Eddie Cheever, of course, partnered that man you just looked at, Martin Brundle, who won the World Sports Car Championship a year ago, did a lot of IMSA Camel GT racing in the United States for Jaguar as well. And we may be seeing Eddie Cheever doing some racing, perhaps even racing sports cars in his home country, the USA. Now, the matter at hand, what is wrong with Gerhard Berger's Ferrari, if anything?
It's
smoking pretty badly.
Smoking constantly now.
It's got 20 more laps to do. It's unlikely smoking like that it'll go 20 laps.
Somewhere, Nigel Mansell is no doubt watching the proceedings here in Spain. Mansell now the answer to a Formula One trivia question. The first man to be banished from a race by the sanctioning body, the FIA. He will state his case next week in Paris and hope to rejoin in Japan, although in his press conference he hinted strongly more than once that he might consider retiring if he is unhappy with the way his case is handled. That deep-throated whine from the V10 Honda and the McLaren. Ayrton Senna, if he and teammate Alain Prost finished in their present positions, first and third, the point differential will go from 24 to 16. Prost with 76 points, Senna with 60. And it will make the Japanese Grand Prix, coming your way in 3 weeks here on ESPN, more than a little exciting, I should think. This in-car camera is aboard a McLaren. The McLarens will carry them in Japan in 3 weeks' time as well. This is Alain Prost at work. Sends chills up my spine watching him go through those turns.
Yeah, but I tell you, listening also to the throttle input that Prost is giving his car through those very quick turns around the back of the circuit, he's actually breathing the engine. And it sounds to me like his front tires don't have too much grip. Otherwise, he'll be able to hold the throttle open longer and harder, and probably wouldn't have dropped back now as far as he is on Senna. He's 43 seconds behind Senna, and that's an awful long way.
Breathing the engine? What do we mean by that?
Well, he comes to the corner. He should be able to go through that sequence of corners without lifting, but he's having to lift off the throttle to check the front tires. He's not got the grip from the front wheels that he needs to go through flat out, so he breathes the engine. He lifts the foot off the throttle, reduces the speed marginally, and keeps the front of the car in tight to the apex of the corner. And if you listen to the engine, you'll hear that he's not able to hold that engine flat out, where I think Senna is able to do so, and therefore he's just pulling away.
And of course that's all to do with the driver setup. As they go into the race, the driver sets his own car up, and of course all those sort of things are self-generating. They get worse as the day goes on. If you try and push your luck a bit and go fast, the tires get even more worn out, and the whole thing just gets worse and worse and worse.
I'm constantly amazed at the concentration level these drivers must have, checking their tire grip as they go through the turn and adjusting with the throttle, meanwhile shifting and braking.
Yeah, that's what he means there. And here. He's not taking 6 now, is he? I don't think.
No, he's not. He's struggling through that very quick section of the circuit. And
whereas, in fact, with a lighter fuel load, he should take it even quicker than he would have done.
Absolutely.
There is Mr. Senna. Perhaps we can go on board with him and listen to the sound of his engine and see how he's taking this section of the track.
This is that long left-hander coming up to the two rights where Sala and Guterman just had their little going together. Thing, can he keep it open from here?
Coming up to this section of the circuit, it's very, very quick. You've got these right-hand corners. similar problem to Prost, but I think he's able to get through the last part of the right-hander slightly more quickly than Prost is doing.
With that, we will take a quick time out. Ayrton Senna is your chauffeur and the race leader in the Formula One Grand Prix of Spain. In 6th position, Jean Alesi. 7th, Philippe Alliot. There are the rest of the top 12. We'll be back in a moment. Watching live the Formula One Grand Prix of Spain, and coming up right after, don't forget Game Day here on ESPN. Chris Berman, Tom Jackson, Pete Axhelm will be bringing you up to date on all the NFL action coming your way later on during the day. But right now, the Formula One Grand Prix of Spain belongs to Ayrton Senna, and he must win this race. Should he do it, by the way, it will not only keep alive his chances of defending his championship, it will also be his 20th career Formula One victory. We'll give you a look at the race for 20, the fastest 20 career wins among Formula One drivers. Juan Manuel Fangio, who started his Formula One career in his late 30s, did it in his 41st race. Jim Clark, Jackie Stewart, Alain Prost, and then Ayrton Senna, competing in his 92nd Grand Prix race, could pick up his 20th victory. But of course, the strength of his portfolio, so to speak, is his qualifying. Senna has 40 Formula One poles, beating Jimmy Clark by about 8 to this point, if I'm correct. You see the smoke continuing out the back of Gerhard Berger's
right
Ferrari.
in the middle of the car. It's not coming out the exhaust pipes, which are down each side. Is it coming out the gearbox?
John Bizignano can give us an update from the pit lane.
I'm trying very much to give you an accurate update. The Ferrari people are number one for giving out information. The engine sounds absolutely crisp, no shifting problems, no high RPM problems whatsoever. They were concerned about the gearbox at the beginning of the race. We went to the press officer here. He said that the smoke, it could be normal. Well, it doesn't look normal to you all in the booth, and I think they're trying to hide possibly a gearbox problem, re-evolving, that had big problems for them in the early warm-up.
Well, if it's not coming from the engine compartment, then it has to make its way around that complete smooth under tray that covers the entire bottom of these cars. I haven't got a clue as to what it might be, but if it is in fact the transmission, it would be the latest in a litany of problems they had with this very radical design. Semi-automatic, actuated by the driver's fingertips on the steering column. We took a good look at it last week in Portugal. Electrically operated, and that has been the source of most of their problems, we are told. There's Alain Prost making his way around in third. The electrical problems that they've had. Looks like one of the Dallara is trying to creep its way onto pit road there. Might have been Alex Caffey. De Cesaris' helmet is white.
Well, the thing is, it's making so much smoke that, and it's been doing it now for about 8 laps. I don't see there's any way it could smoke like that for 20-odd laps. Whatever's leaving that sort of smoke's going to need that oil sooner or later.
Well, I remember looking back at Mexico, where the car was doing a very similar kind of vapor, very fine smoke vapor, and finally the car expired in a major cloud of steam and oil smoke, and that was then put down to a gearbox problem, and Berger's dropped back quite a lot from Senna. He's now over 20 seconds behind him, and he may well be trying to nurse the car through to the finish.
Yes, because although he's dropped back from Senna, it just shows you what a tremendous pace Senna's setting. Alain Prost would hardly make any ground on Berger at all.
58 laps complete, leaving us about 12 roughly in the Formula One Grand Prix of Spain. It is Senna, followed by Berger, Prost, Pirot, and Patrese. Those 5 cars on the first lap. 1 lap down, Jean Alesi, Philippe Alliot, Andrea De Cesaris, and Dr. Jonathan Palmer. 2 laps down, Nelson Piquet, Derek Warwick, Eddie Cheever, and you saw Alex Caffey park his Dallara a moment ago. Martin Brundle went off the racetrack with our tail cam. You saw him go off. He has not gotten back on. He is now shown 7 laps down and out of the race.
Is that the oil streak we can see on the track there?
I wouldn't be surprised, because that mist over the number of laps that Berger has been running with the car, letting this smoke come out, this vapor come out, it will gradually lay down a slick, and the track could be becoming difficult, because you can't actually see it all the time. You might just see a very slight change in color, but there's not enough oil, there's no volume of oil, there's just a very, very fine haze or mist.
We could see the fine total here reach the 200,000 mark if they were to fine him like 45,000 for dropping oil.
Speaking of fines, the promoters of the race here in Spain got nicked for $40,000 when they were 30 minutes late getting the first practice started on Friday. They were missing the emergency evacuation helicopter provided by the Guardia Civil here in Spain. Spain. That cost him 40 large ones. Ayrton Senna picked up a $20,000 fine for setting fast lap in one of the qualifying sessions while a black flag was being shown for a car off course. Of course, $20,000 is probably a tip for a guy making an estimated $7 million a year like Senna does.
There we see Alan Prost coming under extremely heavy pressure from Eddie Cheever in the USF&G Arrows car. He must have just passed him, surely, but he doesn't seem to be putting away much.
Just a little bit of a spurt there, maybe nursing that engine once again. Recall the engine problems we've seen late in the race. Certainly Ayrton Senna leading handily at Montreal before he blew up 2 laps from the finish. Senna again in Monza with about 10 laps to go. This is Alain Prost running third. Behind him, Eddie Cheever listed in 12th. But you're right, that Arrows is right there. Now he even looks to the side as though to pass. Not on the straight.
And as they went by our booth,
Manuel Pirro has spun
Pirro
out of the race.
Shown in 4th place, his best finish of the year it would have been. And what a way to impress guys who hadn't had you in their plans for next year, or more importantly, the teams who are going to need a good, consistent scoring driver next year. And there are plenty of those.
I expect there'll be a replay.
Yes. He's the second car in line.
Oh, he just
snapped it right off the turn.
Turn 1, there could be that little Mr. Boyle becoming more than just a
yeah.
mist.
It was a very quick spin, wasn't it?
Yep,
unexpected looking spin.
Yeah, unexpected. Behind one of the Delaras, de Cesaris, I believe.
That leaves us with 11 cars still in the race, and it raises a point. If they find out who's laying down the oil, say it's Berger, must they black flag him before they can take any other disciplinary action against him? They've been quick on the trigger when it comes to fines this week.
They'd have to black flag him first. Yeah, they couldn't fine him for not...
But I'll tell you one thing, I bet you they'll have the fine well worked out. By the time he came in, there was a bill in his hand saying, here's the bill for dirtying up our racetrack.
I wonder if there was a meatball flag or an oil flag shown at that corner of the racetrack, or anywhere on the racetrack for that matter. Well, perhaps we can find out and tell you when we come back. We're going to take a quick break. You're watching live the Formula One Grand Prix of Spain here on ESPN. We'll be back after this. Shadows beginning to grow long here at Jerez de la Frontera in Spain. Here's a look at the top, in fact, the remaining cars in this Spanish Grand Prix. Ayrton Senna, your leader, as he has been virtually from the beginning of this race, but for a pit stop in between. Berger, Prost, Patrese, Alesi Alio, de Cesaris, Jonathan Palmer, Emanuele Pirro just spun himself out of the race. Nelson Piquet, Derek Warwick, and Eddie Cheever remain. Eddie Cheever has now passed Alain Prost. There is your leader, Ayrton Senna. Eddie Cheever has gone past the 4th place car, make that 3rd place car of Prost. Cheever presently shown in 12th place on the racetrack, but it's obvious that Alain Prost is either saving his tires or has a serious problem. Let's take another look at what happened just a moment ago. This is from on board Prost's car. Cheever came by a lap before pointing at Prost as if to say, he's holding me up. And there's something we haven't seen very often this year, the Arrows going by a McLaren.
That's a sight that old Eddie Cheever would like to see a bit more of in his career, actually.
There is Ricardo Patrese, and the only remaining Williams in this race. Boutsen has parked his. Meanwhile, Ayrton Senna has set fast lap back on lap 55 at 125.779, and that eclipses the race lap record.
Well, there's 10 laps to go. I suppose the big question mark is, can Gerhard Berger's car hang on for 10 laps? It's not smoky as much now, which probably means it's run out of oil to smoke.
Can Alain Prost hold on for those many laps as well? Because he has to drop points, a 3rd place for Prost would net him 1 point and give him 76 total for the year. He had 75 coming in. He will gain 4 for a 3rd place finish, but he will have to drop the 3 he scored in Hungary, leaving him with net 1.
The young Tyrrell driver, John Alesi, here, all over Ricardo Patrese in the V10 engined Renault.
So V8's giving V10s problems all over the racetrack.
Alesi really putting on a fine display today. Went very well in the morning warm-up. Just let's hope he doesn't get too overconfident on what is becoming, obviously, a fairly slippery track.
I think you're going to see Jean Alesi very shortly making a major overtaking maneuver. Jean is somebody who's got unbelievable confidence for a guy of his experience in Formula One. It's as if he's been in it for 3 or 4 seasons, and Eric, well, almost, not quite, but he's gone up the inside in a very, very courageous move. To do what he did with Riccardo Patrese in that particular section of the circuit requires confidence and a good car, and he's got both.
He doesn't know Riccardo Patrese quite as well as you do.
Riccardo's coming into the pits. Patrese is coming into the pits.
So that puts Alesi up into 4th position ahead of Riccardo Patrese. Alesi in the running for the Formula 3000 championship this year. Meanwhile, here's John Bisignano.
Riccardo Patrese into the Williams pits, out of 4th position on the track. A driver hates to come out, but obviously he was losing time. The tires had gone away. RPO up, sideways out of the garage, sideways out of the pit area. He was obviously in big trouble out on the track.
And he exited the last pit. That is the McLaren pit. He must have gone by at 110 miles an hour, and that was about 2 feet from the feet of those mechanics.
And that puts, well, Patrese is a lap down now.
So make your orders. Senna, Berger, Prost, Alesi, Patrese. Well, we can't put Patrese into 5th yet until we decide where, in fact, he is, using the electronic transmitters carried in the noses of these cars. As they cross the start-finish line, they are scored by computer.
Well, Alio went up the pit straight as Patrese pulled out. It depends on whether just around the corner from out of our sight, Alio managed to pull around him. But, of course, with the tyre warmers, these guys can go pretty well straight away at race speed as they leave the pits. It used to be it took a couple of laps to warm the tyres up.
Let's go back aboard now with our race leader, Ayrton Senna. The only remaining cars on the lead lap. 22.5 seconds behind Senna is the 2nd place Ferrari of Gerhard Berger. Another 56, or make that 56 seconds total behind Senna, is the 3rd place car of Prost. Jean Alesi in the Tyrrell is in 4th position, and John Bisignano has more on the Tyrrell situation.
Well, what you're looking at is Ken Tyrrell, the leader of this organization for so many years, and a P4. That's place 4 for the young French driver Alesi. They are so happy down here in the Ken Tyrrell pits. Points mean everything to this team as far as travel fun in 1990. They need the money. They need the victory of a 4th place. That would be a victory. The bad news is Jonathan Palmer, the other teammate out there, has developed a horrible misfire and is slowly dropping back from his P8, or position 8.
P1 is Ayrton Senna. Ken Tyrrell, known as Chopper for the crossed axes he used to carry on his sports cars as a racing driver. Here in Spain, it is Senna, Berger, Prost, Tyrrell's man Alesi, and Riccardo Patrese. We'll be right back. You're watching Alain Prost seeking his 3rd world championship, but right now it doesn't look very promising here in Spain. He runs in 3rd place. Up in front is his teammate Ayrton Senna, the defending world champion, doing exactly what he needs to do, which is win this race. He needs to win at least one more and finish 2nd in the 3rd of 3 races remaining in order to have any hope of holding off Prost for the championship.
Well, Prost is running slowly. Gerhard Berger is running painfully slowly now, obviously determined to get to the end. Of course, it would be a bitter pill to swallow now if he was to fail to finish yet another race in the 1980 season, 89 season, having got so close to the end of the race. But that car has been smoking now for a good solid 15 laps. But it's not leaving much smoke now, nothing left, I suppose.
If there's no smoke, there can't be anything left in the gearbox, so he's going to be driving on a prayer at this stage of the race.
Absolutely. Alain Prost still running in 3rd spot, but that isn't going to be good enough to win in the World Championship if Ayrton Senna wins this race.
Ayrton Senna has just crossed the start-finish line. We have 5 laps to go in the Spanish Formula One Grand Prix.
John Alesi crossed the line just behind him, and I think that he's got hopes from looking at that pit board that John Bisignano is pointing out, P4. It also had a minus number on it, which was minus 34, and that's minus 34 seconds to Alain Prost, who slowed up a lot Alesi has now got some nice new tyres on. Maybe he's going to have a real run to try and snag that position of Al Prost, his fellow Frenchman.
It's a lovely idea from Uncle Ken in the pits, but I think even Jean Alesi, as brilliant as he is at this stage in his young career, is going to have to do an awful lot to make up 34 seconds. And wily old Ron Dennis, mastermind of the McLaren team, I'm sure is also aware of what Ken Tyrrell is being shown as driver, and undoubtedly he will inform his driver, his number 2 driver today, Alan Prost, of that situation.
He will inform him accordingly. The cross axes on Tyrrell's car, of course, but because he made his first fortune as a wood merchant and it still isn't involved. They called him Chopper Tyrrell. That was for the wood.
For the axe, actually. The wood took the axe. That, of course, the voice of David Hobbs. John Watson, former McLaren Formula One driver and winner of the U.S. Grand Prix in Detroit, the inaugural one, I believe, John.
Right, yes, indeed, a great victory as far as I was concerned, and one gave me a great deal of enjoyment to watch later.
Once more across the start-finish line, you're riding with Ayrton Senna. 4 laps to go here in Spain.
And Alesi hanging right onto him. I don't suppose Alesi will be having any illusions about trying to get around Ayrton Senna. As you can see, he's pretty close behind him. Maybe Senna will just let him go.
Your order is Senna, Berger, Prost, Alesi, Patrese, and Alio. Keep in mind, Alio using the 12-cylinder Lamborghini engine with support from the Chrysler Corporation in the United States. This will be their first point of the season if Alio can hang on.
And that, Bob, that point is extremely important to the Lola Lamborghini team, because currently they're one of the teams that has to pre-qualify, and they need to get as many points in the remaining 3 races, and also, of course, today, to help them get out of the pre-qualifying net for the 1990 season.
Ayrton Senna letting John Alesi through there, no doubt thinking to himself, why didn't I do that to Nigel Mansell last week when he was disqualified from the race anyway? But all water under the bridge now.
Getting back to John Watson's point about the points, I think Rial and Ligier are tied with 3 points for that last spot to move out of pre-qualifying. So obviously Alio and teammate Michele Alboreto are doing everything they can in the next couple of races to score another 3 points.
Well, of course, Onyx were in that same position too. I mean, last week they had a fantastic third with Stefan Johansson. This week he didn't even get out of pre-qualifying through one thing and another. Leto was in the race, and I think that Leto might have been in one of these last point-scoring positions, but for some reason or other he was also put out of the race. We don't know why yet.
3 laps to go. Let's go quickly to the pits and John Bisignano.
You know, I have to relate one story when you talk about Chopper Tyrrell. If you go out to the Tyrrell factory, they are building these fabulous Formula One cars virtually in some of the sheds that were still there or originally there when he was chopping wood. The local government there will not let him build one of the super modern factories. It's a little bit strange to see a carbon fiber oven stuck into an old woodshed, but they make it work.
Well, we got bad news for him, John. Ayrton Senna just went back by Alesi, and he went by him like he was standing still. He looks like he's making better time now, but he was really crawling there for a moment.
Bob, one of the things, this is where a team manager's job comes into play. Palmer's Tyrrell is spluttering and popping and banging around the circuit. It could be shortage of fuel. Alesi could be in the same situation, and therefore Tyrrell might say, drop back that lap on Ayrton Senna, do 1 lap less in the race, and maybe we will salvage a 4th place. Otherwise, it could be nothing.
Good point. A part of the strategy of Formula One. Bad news for fans of American Eddie Cheever. He and his Arrows have parked. They are out of the Spanish Grand Prix. 10 cars remain, and we'll be back after this. Where the laps are running down in the Formula One Spanish Grand Prix. Your leader in his McLaren Honda, Ayrton Senna of Brazil, doing what he had to this weekend, blistering to a record pole. There you see his teammate Alain Prost, who had hoped to come into this race and capture his 3rd world championship with either a victory or a finish of 3rd or worse for teammate Senna. It appears it will not be that way, as we have 2 laps remaining. If Senna wins, he remains in the hunt. He will have 60 points on the season, second to Prost's 76, assuming Prost finishes in his present position, which is 3rd. You're watching Senna there being worried by young French sensation Jean Alesi driving a Tyrrell.
John Alesi might, I would, having been ordered probably by Ken Tyrrell, as John Watson said, to drop back, I would have thought it would have been better for him to drop back just a little bit further than that.
Well, he's battling now, maybe because Senna's slowing down. This is the last lap.
Ayrton Senna traditionally will do the last 2 or 3 laps well off his potential, and I think what's happened is Jean Alesi has been told to stay behind Senna, but of course Senna's slowing down more than Alesi really needs to or wants to, so he's rather tripping over him at this stage. But the main thing for Senna is to finish the race, get those 9 points and keep his championship hopes alive, but also for Shauna Lacey, 4th place and 3 points will be a superb effort for a magnificent drive.
To complete his sweep, Ayrton Senna has also set fast lap of the race on the 55th of 73 at 1 minute 25.779 seconds. A magnificent day for the world champion. And it will certainly make our race coming to you in 3 weeks from Japan interesting, as once again Alain Prost will try to become only the 6th man in history to win 3 world titles. You're on board with Senna on his last lap.
Well, that'll be his 13th fastest lap. Fastest laps have not been his forte. Pole position is that. Funnily enough, Alain Prost, who seems such a conservative little guy, he's the guy that does all the race fastest laps and is a clear leader in that in the Grand Prix standings over the years.
I've got really bad news, David. You are cleaning up in our pick 6. You had Senna first, Berger second, Prost third, Alesi fourth. How do you do it?
Skill and daring.
Speaking of skill and daring, it is rewarded by the checkered flag. As the fist goes up into the air, you know that Ayrton Senna, despite his icy cool, has to be absolutely overjoyed. There is the Ferrari of Gerhard Berger that has been smoking for some 25 laps. The folks from Ferrari kept insisting nothing was wrong.
Not home yet.
That's true. He's got one more corner. The pit entrance goes by. He is on the front straight, and now he can shut it off, take it out of gear, and coast to the finish. The Tifosi wave their flags, traditionally bordered with a checkered flag motif.
Well, nothing more or less than a miracle finish, that for Gerhard Berger, because the amount of smoke it was dropping earlier on, I mean, it's a lot of oil.
25 laps ago, I was absolutely certain Gerhard Berger's race was going to end in the pits with a probable gearbox problem, but somehow or other, he's nursed that car to the finish, and he's got 6 points for his efforts.
Alain Prost comes home, crossing the finish line with our in-car camera in 3rd position. He will still lead the championship, but he has not clinched in Spain. We'll be back to tell you how he's doing in points. When we return to Spain, we'll have all of the points, comments from all of our announcers, and we'll return to show you just how devastating my colleague David Hobbs was in our pick 6. You're watching live as celebrations take over in Victory Lane here at Spain. The Formula One Grand Prix of Spain is now finished. Ayrton Senna is your winner. We'll give you a look at the top 10. Gerhard Berger limps home in his Ferrari for 2nd, followed by Alain Prost. Jean Alesi in a spectacular drive for the young Frenchman. Ricardo Patrese brings the old Williams home in 5th position. 6th, Philippe Alliot getting that all-important point for the Lamborghini team. Andrea De Cesaris is 7th. 8th, Nelson Piquet. 9th, Derek Warwick for Arrows. And 10th, Dr. Jonathan Palmer, also for the Tyrrell team, and Ken Tyrrell himself is standing by with John Bizignano.
Ken Tyrrell, congratulations again on excellent 4th position. It means a lot to your team, this 4th place.
Well, it's very important because this new young driver, it's only his 7th Grand Prix, and he keeps on finishing in the points. He keeps on showing the more powerful engine cars can be the cars can be outdriven by a quick driver.
Let me tell you, you have always been noted as one of the individuals who can spot new talent. Where did you see him, and what did you think the first couple times you saw him run?
Well, in fact, I didn't see him run in any other formula, but I saw that he was leading the Formula 3000, the European Formula 3000 Championship, and that's good enough for me. You have to be pretty good to be leading that championship, which, of course, since he has won. He is now the champion.
2 races left. What's the outlook for the Tyrrell team in Japan and Australia?
Well, we have an ambition to get more points than the Benetton team.
Well, you just might make it. Very good luck in the last 2 events, Ken.
Thank you.
Well, that's going to take 21 more points to surpass Benetton, assuming that they don't score any more this year. We'll come back to get final comments from all of our commentators and wrap up the points from Spain after this quick word. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Formula One Grand Prix of Spain has been brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. Q stands for quality, always has, always will. By Volkswagen, cars at an honest value for over 40 years. By Budweiser, Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste, this Bud's for you. And by First Brands Corporation, makers of STP Son of a Gun Protectant. Mock bullfights like this one are a popular party favor here in Spain, but in case you're wondering about the sword, no, they did not kill the bull. But they almost killed some of us at those parties. Great fun indeed. Here are the way the points stand as the Formula One Series moves next to Japan. Alain Prost leads by just 16 over teammate Senna. The absent Nigel Mansell third, followed by Patrese and Boutsen. Gerhard Berger with a runner-up finish today bumps Sandro Nannini from 6th down to 7th. Constructor points, I must apologize to Ken Tyrrell. I had his points all wrong. He needs just a few more points to catch the Benetton team for 4th. McLaren has already clinched the World Championship among those constructors. John Watson, we want to thank you for joining us in the booth today. Your thoughts on today's race?
Well, Bob, I spoke to Ron Dennis before the start of the race, and he felt the Spanish Grand Prix was the most difficult of the last 3 races to win, especially for Senna. They managed to do that, so Japan and Australia, in their mind, are going to be easier.
David, you just won the Pick 6 today with 8 points to my 5 and John's 4. You enjoy yourself?
Yeah, I did, and I think Berger, of course, just had a bit of luck today, which he's been lacking for the rest of the season, but what a stamp of authority Ayrton Senna put on today's race, and you certainly wouldn't want to bet against him being world champion again in '89.